I wondered how they were possibly going to mount an attack on him, and they came up with, he's weird. Some think tank probably got paid millions of dollars to come up with what you call each other in elementary school and in high school. That is the best that they've got. That's the best they came up with. But what's also standing out to me through all of this is if mainstream media isn't nothing more than an extension of the Democrat Party or in their pocket, how in the world did they all come up with the same talking point at the same time? We cut a montage of numerous Democrat lawmakers and then members of the media from various mainstream networks calling Vance and Republicans alike all weird. I wonder, how did they all come up to the same conclusion centered in on the word weird at the same time? It's either the biggest coincidence of all time or they're getting told what to do. Let's take a listen.
These guys are just plain weird.
They're just plain weird.
Vance has done something more extreme, more weird, more erratic.
But the Republican weirdness goes even deeper.
I don't think Kamala Harris is going to pick anyone as weird and creepy as JD Vance.
Deeply and profoundly weird.
A super weird idea from JD Vance.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, it's quite weird.
They are weird.
What was weird was him joking about racism today and then talking about Diet Mountain Dew. Who drinks Diet Mountain Dew?
Republicans just being weird. It's just weird. It's really weird.
They're just weird. I mean, they really are.
What's wrong with Diet Mountain Dew? They wouldn't make it if people weren't buying it. All right. It's honestly scary, I think, to hear how in lockstep the mainstream media is when Democrats, and I mean right on cue, here comes the weird attack. Honestly, I think the fact that they are all saying the same thing is weird, no? And according to some professor at one of our elite universities, this is a genius attack, he thinks. The Associated Press interviewed a strategic communication professor at GW in D.C. He said, labeling Republican comments as weird is the sort of concise take that resonates quickly with a Harris supporter. I mean, if you want to talk weird, I think there's plenty of ammo for Vance and Republicans on this one here. I'm going to take a stab at it. Let's start with this. Trans people going topless at the White House lawn. I mean, that's pretty weird. How about when a Democrat staffer filmed themselves having sex in a Capitol Hill hearing room? That's weird and insane. Or how about this one? Were people dressed up like animals and rodents to celebrate Christmas at the White House? I mean, I think that would count as pretty weird, no? Or how about this clip from Vice President Kamala Harris starting off a meeting a couple years ago with pronouns and letting everyone know where she's sitting and what she's wearing?
I am Kamala Harris. My pronouns are she and her. I am a woman sitting at the table wearing a blue suit.
The list goes on and on. I don't have time for it all, but if you really want to talk about the weirdest thing of them all, Democrats and mainstream media acted like there was nothing wrong at all with Joe Biden for years. Then they kicked him out once it was clear that he would lose, and now have propped up Kamala Harris, who hasn't received a single vote, as the Democrat nominee. And I want to remind everyone in this country, we live in a place where our politicians are supposed to be elected. I would say that is rather weird. Okay, joining us now to discuss is the host of both the nationally syndicated show, Tony Katz Show Today, and the Eat, Drink, Smoke radio show. Tony Katz, along with radio host at KDWN Las Vegas, Steve Sanchez. Gentlemen, thanks for coming on today.
Absolutely.
Tony, I'm going to start with you, and I want to make one more point here. I think the weird attack falls a little flat because at the end of the day, one way or another, I think everyone is a little weird, including myself. That's the way we humans are. Therefore, Democrats, mainstream media, in a roundabout way, they're insulting everybody on earth. What do you think about that?
Well, if we're going to start with the weird insult, let's talk about the two places they're absolutely insulting, these Democrat hotbeds of Austin, Texas, and Portland, Oregon. These are places that thrive on the idea of weird. Keep Austin weird. You can buy the T-shirt. I think you could do the same in Portland if they still sell anything in Portland. But it reminded me, and I discussed this on my show today, lawyers discuss that when you have the facts in a case, right? You're arguing a case. When you have the facts, you pound the facts. And when you have the law on your side, you pound the law. But when you have nothing, you pound the table. And that's very much what this looks like. This is a pound the table moment from the progressive left. They have nothing. They can't talk about the border. They can't talk about the economy. They can't talk about a world at peace. Certainly can't talk about fentanyl and the safety of children. So what do you talk about? Weird. It is the last gasp of a really, really rough opportunity for the Democratic Party that says that they're all enthused about Kamala Harris right until she opens her mouth. And when she opens her mouth, that's super weird.
It is weird. Great points. Steve, I want to get your thoughts on, it seems like all the mainstream media, they've just jumped on board. It's like they all got a memo and said, hey, everybody, hosts alike, correspondents, you're going to call JD Vance and Republicans weird. What do you think?
That's exactly. They all work lock, stock, and barrel. And it's funny, if you look at those that we just saw in that, collage of people saying weird, you got Chuck Schumer, who talks to invisible people on the floor of Congress. He was talking to an empty chair, okay? You've got Eric Swalwell on air doing something rather weird himself, if you recall. You remember that one was all over Twitter. You've got Joe Biden eating food off his chin on live TV, if you remember that. That was weird. This cast of critters, they're weird. They're the Willy Wonka weird. And I'll be quite honest with you. Just look at them. Look at all of them on CNN, the things that they say about weird. Look at them. They look kooky. They got a screw loose. I mean, literally, I have to just say it. So America can, and I know America agrees. Just look at them. Listen to them. They look like lunatics. And then they've got bearded men in dresses at the Olympics. That used to be, pay a nickel to see the bearded lady at the circus. That's weird to me.
Used to be a sideshow. You'd pay 5 cents to see a bearded lady on a sideshow there. Tony, I want to point up something else I think that is rather weird, and I said this at the end there, the weirdest thing of them all. Joe Biden. We have all the videos that we've seen him, that he's been wandering off like at the G7 summit, and then you see him there on the Juneteenth celebration. He doesn't move for about 20 seconds. I remember when that came out. And then we had Kamala Harris backing him, even after all this happened and the debate. Let's listen.
It was a slow start. That's obvious to everyone. I'm not going to debate that point. I'm talking about the choice in November. I'm talking about one of the most important elections in our collective lifetime. And do we want to look at what November will bring and go on a course for America that is about a destruction of democracy, electing a man who has said he'll be a dictator on day one? Or do we want to continue on a course that's about strengthening America's economy, building and creating 15 million American jobs, over 800,000 manufacturing jobs?
And a couple of days later, her boss was gone. Tony, your thoughts on that? I think that's weird.
Certainly the cover-up could, for some people, fall into the category of weird, but I think for the vast majority of people, falls into the category of coup. This is the story of Kamala Harris not being able to escape the past. And, of course, you had the New York Times writing about how Republicans are digging into her former statements and talking about them as if somehow that's a problem. Somebody who is opposed to fracking and said so very, very clearly, both in town halls and on Jimmy Fallon's program, The Tonight Show. Somebody who has put out their philosophies and America has rejected repeatedly. So, again, the talking point is inconsequential. The honeymoon is over, and that's where it really needs to be focused. This whole conversation about weird is a meaningless one because it has no legs. They will try. I mean, it's Alinsky. It's Rules for Radicals, number 5, right? Ridicule's man's most potent weapon. But in the end, they can't change the fact that people, even in this economy where they want to claim inflation is getting better, still can't afford the basic things. Gas is still more expensive. They still deal with fentanyl coming from the southern border. They're still a nation at war, and things do not look better going forward. And of course, as Yui started this conversation, she knew Joe Biden was ill for 3.5 years and said nothing. Can't wait for that question to come up at a debate.
I think this weird attack probably falls flat in a couple of days because, like I said, my final point here, we're all a little weird. You can call anybody that. It's juvenile. It's ridiculous. Tony Katz, Steve Sanchez. Gentlemen, we're out of time. Thanks for coming on today.